Hello and welcome back to Kim Reads as we continue with Rosalind Franklin. Chapter 3. Studying Science During a War. In the fall of 1938, when Rosalind was about to start classes at Cambridge, German leader Adolf Hitler, who had already invaded Austria, threatened to invade Czechoslovakia. England didn't want him to do that, but the only way to stop him was to go to war against him, and England really hadn't wanted another war. Over 1 million British soldiers had died in World War I less than 20 years before. No one in England wanted to fight again. England's Prime Minister went to talk to Hitler. People all over England waited anxiously. Rosalind's classes at Cambridge were delayed until word came back. The leaders of England and Germany had signed a peace treaty. Many people were happy, but others thought a war had only been delayed, not prevented. Life at Cambridge quickly began to change. Students studying science and medicine weren't drafted into the armed services. Women, though they weren't drafted to fight, were drafted to serve in other ways. But many of their professors left them to do war work, secret work, mostly about weapons and radar and defense. Rosalind and her fellow students had been more independent than usual. For Rosalind, this was no trouble at all. She often worked in her laboratory all day. Rosalind didn't always get along with the teachers who were left. One of them thought she was too independent and too stubborn as well. Rosalind thought he just didn't like it when female students argued with him. Rosalind loved to argue. She loved to say what she thought and listen to what other people thought. It helped her make decisions. She didn't argue because she was angry. To her, it was just a way to exchange information. Sometimes other people didn't see it like that. Rosalind studied physical chemistry, the sort of chemistry that concentrates on the rules and shapes and behaviors of molecules. Molecules are tiny pieces of matter. They're made of individual atoms. You can think of atoms as letters of the alphabet and molecules as words. Both the letters that you choose and the way you put them together are important. The letters O, P, S, and T can make stops, pots, tops, and ops. Some combinations, like OSPT, don't make words. The letters can't combine that way. Some molecules, like water, are made only of a few atoms. Others, like proteins, can be made of hundreds or even thousands of atoms. All molecules are incredibly small. There are more than 1 billion water molecules in a single drop of water. Every time you drink a glass of water, you're drinking 10 times as many molecules of water as there are stars in the universe. It's amazing. Physical chemistry is chemistry plus physics plus math. It's difficult and complicated. Rosalind loved it. At the start of Rosalind's second year of college, England joined the war against Germany. At home, Rosalind's parents took in a Jewish refugee, her sister, who lived with the Franklins for several years until she could be reunited with her family at the end of the war. As the war went on, food and fuel and even clothing became hard to find. Travel was restricted. At night, people covered their windows with dark cloth to hide from airplanes carrying bombs. Most cities, especially London, were badly damaged by bombs anyway. Cambridge was one of the few cities that never was. Rosalind worked hard. Her one disappointment came right at the end of her time at Cambridge. Rosalind very much wanted to earn the top degree, called a first-class degree. Rosalind worked and studied so hard that when it came time to take her exam, she was utterly exhausted. She didn't do as well as she might have. She was disappointed with her high second-class honors. However, most people thought that was an achievement. Rosalind earned a scholarship to continue her studies as a graduate student. This time she took it. In 1942, Rosalind began graduate work at Cambridge, studying under a man named Ronald George Rayford Norrish. He was a very good scientist. In 1967, he would win the Nobel Prize in Chemistry, a top award a scientist could earn. But he was not a very nice person. Like Rosalind, he was stubborn and argumentative. But while he liked to argue with people, he disliked it very much when other people argued back. He recognized that Rosalind was bright and ambitious. He didn't like that she expected to be treated on an equal basis with the male chemists in the laboratory. To Rosalind, This was simply ridiculous. She thought she deserved to be judged only on the quality of her work, not whether she was a man or woman. She called Ronald Norrish an ogre. It was still wartime, and by now Rosalind needed to be working by the war for the war effort anyhow. She moved to a laboratory near London, where she worked for the government studying the physical chemistry of coal. Ronald Norrish still officially supervised Rosalind, but now she didn't have to be around him every day. She worked on her own. During the day, she did research. In the evening, she worked as an air raid warden, warning people of incoming bomb attacks and getting the help if they were bombed. Coal might seem like a strange thing to study during a war, but it was important. Coal was the main fuel used in England, and the only fuel the country produced itself. Coal comes from plants that died long ago. Since it comes from lots of different kinds of plants, there was lots of different kinds of coal, but when you look at pieces of coal, they all look the same. Rosalind studied the way atoms arrange themselves in different kinds of coal. She learned how tiny spaces between the atoms changed the way the coal behaved. She learned how to tell different kinds of coal apart. The way industries could use the type that best suited them. It was careful, important work. It earned Rosalind a doctorate degree from Cambridge in 1945. Then the Allies defeated Hitler. The long, hard war was over in Europe. Rosalind's studies were complete, and she was no longer tied to her war service research. She was Dr. Rosalind Franklin, PhD. She could work wherever she chose. And that's the end of that chapter. See you later.